Okay, so good afternoon, class. Got our recording going here, so if the students that aren't here, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me on Schoology or through email. So as I mentioned last week, we have to talk about how we are politically socialized. You get your political socialization in a whole bunch of different ways. Chances are your parents are probably the most influential thing into your political socialization. But that's not the only factor. There's factors like where you live, your geography. Certain regions of our country are more liberal or conservative than others. We have different factors like religion or lack of religion. Um, I mentioned geography. I mentioned family, where you go to school. There's a lot of things that go into your political socialization. And your political socialization never ends. It never ends. You could change from one day to the next, all based upon your experiences and the things that you go throughout your life. Now, that being said, we identified last week when we did our Take a Stand activity, whether you took a step to the left or step to the right, based upon the issue that we mentioned. So many of you have a general idea about where you fall on the political spectrum, but today what I want to do is examine some issues, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to identify the issue, just kind of to give a basic definition of what it is, and then give you a general belief on what Democrats feel and what Republicans feel. Now, remember, it's not a 100% fact rule. You can be a Democrat and disagree with the Democratic, party on that particular issue. It's not a 100% fall in line type of deal. As I'm sure many of you will find when you say, well, I believe that I'm a very staunch Republican. And then I give you the issues and you find that you believe like a Democrat on a couple of them. That's normal. That's totally fine and normal, okay? I don't want you to feel like you have to be a straight party liner. If you are, that's also okay. You can feel however you want to feel. My goal and objective is not to try to sway you one way or another. It's so you know what you believe, so that you can have an opinion, whatever it is. And as I told you guys, everybody has an opinion, and I'm no different. And I'm going to challenge your opinions. Even if I disagree with you or agree with you personally, I'm still going to challenge you just to make you think. Okay? So it's called kind of like playing the devil's advocate. I'm going to question you on why you feel that way. It's not because I'm trying to fight with you, argue. I'm not going to fight or argue with you, period, because I don't really care, honestly. But second of all, I want you to think for yourself and challenge your own feelings. So why do I think this way? Why do I believe this? Because maybe you'll find that the way you believe you might actually disagree with, or it may strengthen your beliefs. Either way, I'm happy for you. I just want you to. What I'm most concerned about is that there's stuff going in your brain, and that you understand, and that you're thinking. That's my main concern. Questions on that? That being said, let's get the ball rolling. Abortion. Pretty hot button topic, wouldn't you say? Okay. Who can give me an objective definition of what it is? What is it? Chase.
Okay. It is killing. Try not to be biased definition, but
Let's give Chase a chance.
killing an unborn. What's the word?
Fetus.
Fetus. Thank you.
Okay.
Fetus. And get rid of it so it doesn't get born.
Okay.
So the parent doesn't have the child.
Okay. That's good. That's a good definition. Sarah, would you say so? You're not wrong. You're right. Sarah?
Terminating a pregnancy. Yeah.
I kind of like that a little better. The termination of a pregnancy. Okay? Just so we know, it is So abortions, according to the federal government, are allowed because of a Supreme Court ruling that took place in 1973. And that Supreme Court ruling was Roe versus Wade. I always thought that's what you did in shallow water. Ba-dum-bum. Okay? So it's simply a termination of a pregnancy. Now, when it comes down to the states, varying states have different rules. Some states say only in the first trimester of gestation, first 3 months. Other states will allow an abortion up until the day of birth. It all just depends on the state. Some states, I think, say no abortion whatsoever. So it is a state. The fact that it's the states have a lot of input when it comes to this. All right, we will do these in alphabetical order, so the Republicans or the Democrats will come first. I use blue. Why blue? That's the color of the Democratic Party. It's just one of their symbols. Just like the animal. What's the animal? The donkey. Okay. Yep. All right. So Democrats. Typically, now remember, none of these are 100% fact rules, but typically, Democrats believe that it is the woman's right to choose what she does to her body. So the government does not need to get involved. I'm just giving, their argument is called pro-choice, by the way. And I'm going to give you the Democrats' argument. The Democrats say, this is a medical procedure. The government need not get involved with my medical plan and need not get involved with the choices I make on how to treat my body. The government doesn't tell me whether or not I can get a tattoo. The government doesn't tell me whether or not I can have, a facelift or a breast enhancement. It's none of the government's business what I do with my doctors. And so therefore it is their choice. Democrats also say that abortions help to keep the crime rate low because people that are aborting their children are people that shouldn't be having children anyways. And so therefore these children that would be neglected by bad parents are not growing up to be, criminals. Yes, Hunter.
Well, one of the interesting things I see about this issue is Democrats in this, whenever they, like with abortion specifically, they want small government, and this is one of the few things that they really want small government on. But like Republicans want like a very overreaching, very, very government hands-on whenever it comes to abortion. I just think that's very weird, and it's kind of like reverse.
It's not that it. I see what you're saying. The reverse role as far as liberal and conservative. It's just that the conservatives, they want smaller role in economics and larger role when it comes to upholding traditional values. In all cases, all right. So technically, the party that wants a small government and not uphold like truly conservative, like the most, it's called a libertarian. They don't want the government involved in anything. And then like the opposite, like big government in the economy, big government in controlling your traditional values, that would be populist. All right. Whereas Democrats, big government in the economy, not uphold traditional values, and Republicans, small government in the economy, uphold traditional values. So it's a mix. Okay. So that's the Democrats. It's the woman's right to choose what she does with her own body. Government need not get involved in their private life when it comes to this traditional value. Whereas Republicans say, what color am I going to use for Republicans? Red. Republicans say what? Their position is called pro-life. And what is the pro-life position? Okay, it's immoral. It is immoral. And government should never allow it. Now, it's a tip. Now, are there Republicans that say sometimes it's okay? There are. Yes, Blake. Was there,
Yeah.
Thank you for answering my question. All right. And then, but there are also some Republicans say murder is murder. Murder is murder. The killing of an unborn child instead of the termination of a pregnancy. Okay, so the argument that the Republicans make for this is very much rooted in Christianity and the New Testament. Okay, so it's basically that life is sacred, and the government should be responsible for ensuring that, especially for unborn children. Okay, so it's a biblical argument, and they also argue that it's bad for mothers. It's bad. Abortion's bad for mothers. It's bad for them psychologically and physiologically, and it causes trauma, even fathers. So it's a danger to the American family. Okay, so what do you guys? You don't have to tell me how you believe, but anybody like to add anything? Anything I'm maybe forgetting, leaving out? Now, in your notes, I want you to put a check mark beside the one that you agree with the most. Okay, gun control laws. Now, what the issue here is not necessarily going out and using a shotgun, buying a shotgun at Walmart, or whatever, buying a shotgun, buying a deer rifle, muzzle loaders. That's not the kind of gun control that we're going to be discussing. Okay, this is for weapons like handguns, assault rifles, and automatic weapons. Automatic weapons. Do you know why?
What was it?
Because there's gun control laws. Okay?
I thought we were talking about like more gun control laws.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought.
The right to bear arms is the Second Amendment right.
No, I was talking about like the automatic ones. I thought we were talking about like trying to make them illegal.
No, we're trying guns are going to exist.
Yeah.
Like, you guys realize it's an amendment.
Yeah.
Like, only one amendment's ever been repealed, and it was because it was prohibition.
Yeah, prohibition.
Yeah, you like to get an amendment, 3/4 of the states have to ratify. You realize that'll never happen, right? Okay, unless something changes. Okay, gun control. What we're talking about here is the restriction of certain weapons. Okay, so yeah, I'll even write that, the restriction of these things, and also who can own them. And also, is there going to be a process? Because if you're going to go straight up unrestricted Second Amendment, a 13-year-old mentally ill, methed out kid, do they need to have access to an AK-47 fully automatic machine gun? No! I think we can all agree on that. Regardless, because 100% freedom on the Second Amendment would be a bad thing. There needs to be some restrictions, and we can all agree on that. Okay? Crazy people that have mental illness, people that are criminals, children. These are people that needs to have some restrictions, okay? But how far should the restrictions go? That is the issue here, okay? So let's just look at the Democrats. The Democrats tend to favor stricter gun control laws. and very harsh penalties for people that break those laws. Okay. Your more democratic places are going to have stricter gun control laws. For example, New York City is traditionally a democratic city. I remember when I was in college, I believe, a football player for the New York Giants. His name was Plaxico Burress. You guys ever heard of Plaxico? He was a good football player. Well, he played football for the Giants. And it was during football season, and after a game, he went to a club, a nightclub, okay? And he just went to a club, and he had a gun on him. He had a gun stuffed in the front of his sweatpants. Okay, well, he's wearing sweatpants. And he was in the club, and it's loud, and the gun kept falling down into his pants, and he kept trying to adjust it. And when he was doing it one time, he grabbed it wrong, and the gun discharged, and he shot himself in the leg. All right, nobody even realized it. The club was so loud. He just limped out, went to the hospital, shot himself in the leg. Nobody knew it. Drove himself to the hospital. He did 3 years in prison because they have very strict gun control laws. He discharged a firearm in the city limits of New York. He owned a gun without permission. Nobody got hurt but him. 3 years in prison for shooting himself in the leg. Okay? Very strict gun control laws. You go to another state, like, say West Virginia, you shoot yourself in the leg and nobody even knows about it. You probably just go to the hospital and go home. Right?
Get a good story about it.
Yeah, basically. Okay? So different places are going to have different different degrees of these based upon how they feel, okay? Whereas Republicans, on the other hand, tend to oppose gun control, stricter gun control, at all. Because they believe it is a violation. I don't know why that happens. It is a violation of what? Of the Second Amendment to the Constitution. The Second Amendment, which says citizens have the right to keep and bear arms. I think it also says you form a militia if necessary. So it is a pretty important amendment. The second one. What do you think the founding fathers' intent was?
It was because we didn't have an army.
We had the Constitution, so we had provisions for a military. We did. I mean, was it the most powerful military in the world? No. But what had just been going on in America like 10 years before this was written? British soldiers were traipsing through people's neighborhoods. So that definitely has a role to do with it. What else? In case what?
In case we need another revolution.
To overthrow the government. That's why. Yeah. Fear that the government would become too powerful, traipse upon people's rights. The right of revolution, you have the right to overthrow the government. Okay. How many of you guys ready to overthrow the government? I mean, a few people have, some radical people, yeah, sure. At all given times, and probably in November, there'll be a bunch more people, one way or the other, want to overthrow the government. How many of you guys live in fear that those pesky Canadians are going to come and take us over?
Can't wait.
Don't worry too much about the United States being invaded and, foreign armies marching through my neighborhood. I don't have a fear of that. Even if there was no military, there are so many guns. Just
Crazy people.
as an example, please put a hand in there if there is a firearm in your home right now. 100%. Okay? If I were to ask the same question in a British classroom,
Like, no.
just the police officers' children, the police officers and the hardened criminals would be the ones that raise their hands.
What's all this about?
I just got fish and chips at home.
Wonderful. Okay? So, there should be some, in my humble opinion, probably some gun control is good. I don't think the crazy people and I probably misspoke earlier. There are probably some people that say, I don't care if you're crazy, a felon, or whatever. If they have the right to own a gun, they should. If they want to. If they want one, they should. There are people like that. And that's fine. That's fine. I guess I'm not one of those people. But I'm also around children a lot. So I know how crazy some people are. All right. Put a check mark by the one that you agree with the most. The most. Okay. Call this next one discrimination. Discrimination. These are actions taken against a person or group based on circumstances that are out of their control. Actions taken against a person or group based on circumstances that are out of their control. For example, what is a stereotype for redheaded people?
They're mean. They're mean.
Mean,
Hot-headed.
hot-headed, angry, hot tempers,
Good fight.
fighters, good fighters. Anything else? That's about it.
Irish.
Okay. All right, so there are stereotypes associated with my hair color and Brittany's hair color. These are stereotypes. Stereotypes not always true. I'm a pretty friendly person. I don't really get angry that easily. I don't think. I have a very long fuse. I don't meet that stereotype. Yet, people may look at me and say, don't mess with him. I bet he's got a hot temper. I bet he's really mean. Well, can I help the fact that my grandfather had red hair and that genetic information got encoded into my parents, and then when they had sex and I was born, is there anything I could do to prevent that? Totally and completely out of my control. You guys are aware that's how babies are made, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're laughing, so I didn't know. I didn't realize it was that funny, like genetics and biology.
Just the way you said it.
Okay, so there's what is it, guys? So taking actions based upon things the way I was born, like seeing someone say, well, their skin color is a certain way, they have to act a certain way. That's discrimination. And when you take action against them based upon a circumstance out of their control, that's not cool. Okay, that's not cool. Say, oh, that's a black person. I'm going to pull them over because they're black. I bet they're up to no good. That's wrong. That's discrimination. Okay? So Democrats and Republicans handle discrimination a little differently. That's the issue here. Okay? Democrats. Democrats say it is the government's responsibility to protect victims of discrimination. How can the government protect victims of discrimination?
By creating laws against it.
That's right. By creating public policy or laws to that effect. Okay. Can anybody name any anti-discrimination public policy? Okay, that's more of a Supreme Court case that does end segregation in schools. How about affirmative action? All right. Can anybody give me an example of how affirmative action is at work in America?
They have to have a certain number of minority or whatever in their like if you're like at a job or whatever, they have to have a certain number of those people who
Quotas.
yeah.
Certain positions require quotas.
Or they can't. Isn't it in school like they can't?
You have to have a
They
certain
have to
number
have
of
a girl team for every boy team or something.
Title IX.
Yeah.
That's right. You play football? Can Sarah play football?
Yeah, there's a girl on the team.
Can you play softball?
Mhm.
No. Boys cannot play girl sports, but girls can play boy sports. That's an affirmative action thing. Things that any kind of legislation that assists traditionally disadvantaged groups is affirmative action.
So you're saying girls are a disadvantaged group?
Traditionally in sports,
Yes.
100% without a doubt. Absolutely. They are. Before 1972, girls did not really play sports. After 1972, when Title IX was created, girls' sports were allowed. It's been on slowly increasing ever since. Okay? And let's be honest, if boys were allowed to play girls' sports, how long would there be girls playing a sport? Not long. Not long at all. Okay? Boys are naturally bigger, faster, stronger. It is a biological thing. It's just how it is. Okay? All right, so other things like the NFL has some affirmative action, like the Rooney Rule. You ever heard of that? Anytime there's a head coaching position that's up, football teams are required to interview at least one black coach. You don't have to hire anybody they want, but they got to interview at least one. It's called the Rooney Rule. Pittsburgh Steelers owner came up with it. Okay? So the Democrats want the government's hands on this. They want the government involved in this. Whereas Republicans say laws are not necessary, so they are ineffective. People should adhere to their moral compass and society. Laws don't work. That's what Republicans say. They're not necessary. We are Americans, and Americans have a moral compass. Haven't you heard of the golden rule? Do unto others. Yeah. And people should abide by that. Well, you know, there's positives and negatives with both of these guys. There really are. Okay? You know, Republicans say, look to your churches to find solace and try to find peace in society. If the church is involved, the government does not need to get involved in this. Okay? So we have certain, but there are rules on the books in government, like, you know, like in the 1880s they passed the Pendleton Act for the civil service tests, and it's not based on merit. It's based on merit, not based on who you know anymore, to some extent. But you know, they say laws are not necessary, even though some of them are part of our culture. Put a checkmark by the ones that you agree with the most. It's pretty. I mean, I don't have a lot to say. I mean, it just is what it is. Military spending. Well, this is money spent on the armed forces to defend our nation at home and abroad. Abroad means overseas, not in America. Money spent on the armed forces to defend our nation at home and abroad, which is guaranteed in the Constitution. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Democrats. Democrats usually tend to favor a decrease in spending for the military. Tend to favor decreased military spending for the. All right. Democrats say that they prefer to handle problems through diplomacy. What's diplomacy? Hmm? What's diplomacy?
Go on, fix my phone before. You were saying it.
You get along with one another?
Through
Communication.
talking it out. We're going to use words instead of bullets. And they're going to do that at the organization intended to solve worldwide global problems, the United Nations. So we don't need to have, Democrats say we don't need to have a large military because we're going to have fewer problems and we're less likely to need them if we can solve our problems with words. So why spend $85 trillion a year making bombs when we could make 0 bombs and solve all our problems with words? That's a Democratic perspective. Okay? Whereas Republicans tend to favor increased military spending. They like to handle problems directly, like a global police force. Okay. What are the benefits to the Democrat perspective? What are the benefits?
You can put that money to something else.
Save money, use money for something else in America. What else?
I mean,
No
less
Americans don't
wars.
die.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peace is awesome.
We could
Peace.
actually, have a better relationship with other countries in general.
Potentially better relations, foreign relations. With we're less likely to be bullies if we don't have the okay. Benefits to the Republicans.
We win.
Okay, more likely to have a military advantage over enemies.
We already do.
Maybe.
You're able to use it as a diplomatic resource.
Use the military as a diplomat. Like they see that we are armed to the teeth, and so people are less likely to mess with us.
But is it diplomatic?
It's reality. Like, yeah, it'd be awesome for everybody to get along, get together,
Mhm.
but the reality is we can't, and we need to have something to back ourselves up with.
Because especially like-
That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay. All right. What are the drawbacks? What are the disadvantages to the Democrats' perspective?
Nobody gets along.
Okay,
Well-
like Blake just said, it's not realistic to expect that the entire world's going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Okay?
I like to think that.
Oh, it's great to think that way, and it would be wonderful if it were true. All right, but that's
So a weaker military?
yeah, you're going to have a weaker military. Well, here's one. What about the last war we were involved with? Who were we at war with?
Korea.
Well, we're
the Middle East.
we're at war with Iraq right now. We're on.
We declared war on Iraq.
That was in 2003.
We declared war on the nation of Iraq.
No.
war on.
Last one was like.
Who did we declare war on?
A terrorist.
Radical Islamic fundamentalist terrorists.
Mhm.
About 1% of a religious group. So what nation do we call when we go to the UN? Do we call up the president of the Radical Islamic fundamentalists?
We call nobody.
There is no one to call. They're not represented at the United Nations. That's a big drawback. We're not at war with a nation. We're at war with like
People.
a 0.5% of a religion. Okay? What are some drawbacks to the Republicans?
Not as
Yeah,
much
it's
money.
imperialism. We as a nation.
Could lead to imperialism and has caused imperialism in the past. What else?
Not much money.
It's very expensive.
We could use all that money that could be used for something else.
Could be used for other things.
We always think we're
Yeah, if we're acting like a global police force, our troops are constant like,
always losing Americans.
You usually got people
yeah,
deployed-
soldiers are dying.
Make more enemies.
Usually have people deployed everywhere.
Yeah, make more enemies. What do you mean make more enemies? You mean
Countries will pick us.
if we're going to act like the global police force and if there's unrest in another country and we send troops over there and start walking around with machine guns, of course, you mean to tell us that those countries are going to be upset that American soldiers are walking around their backyard with... All right, so we got riots and stuff going on in the United States right now, right? What do you guys think if France just showed up and like, America, we're here to solve your problems. And French soldiers just started walking around American cities with machine guns. We're here to help. We're here to help. We're here to help.
Yeah,
Well,
you're
that's
definitely
kinda
gonna have
What do you
different.
think about that?
Well,
You're gonna have problems.
How would you like it?
Well, that's kind of different because America didn't attack France or whatever. They attacked us, so we put troops there because they attacked
Yeah,
us.
but that means that we be attacking them because we're coming into their place, policing.
Well,
their
they came
government.
to us and blew us up, and
As a citizen of the
Terrorist
United
acts.
States, how do you feel, and how would you like it if a foreign nation deployed troops to our country to assist us?
So violent.
Let's use Antifa as an example.
I don't think we would generally like
See,
that.
no,
I'd be
I don't
confused.
support Antifa.
So,
We'll take care of
why
ourselves.
is it- Why do we expect that other countries would feel any differently when our soldiers show up and start trying to help?
I think we're trying to look good.
Trying to be the global force for good?
Yeah. They're trying to
Can't be
help,
good
but
when
just
you
kinda
can't
makes
go
us
when
look bad.
It's expected from us.
Are there positives and negatives to both of these?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pick the one that you think does the least amount of damage.
To us or the enemy.
This one, I don't even know if I need to do it anymore. Gay rights.
huh?
They got them, and they got them. So I don't even think I need to do them anymore. When I first started teaching civics and stuff, there was like 2 states that had legal gay marriage. Now it's all 50. So I probably don't even need to do that one anymore.
I think I would go with
Okay. All right, next issue. Minimum wage.
The trash can right
I
there.
didn't even see it.
It's okay. What is minimum wage? What's the definition?
The
The
bare
minimum
minimum
wage you get.
pennies.
The least amount of money an hourly worker can be paid, legally be paid. Okay? Currently, what is West Virginia's minimum wage?
8.75, 8.75.
$8.75. Wow.
You guys have a quarter.
When I was a junior and senior in high school, I worked at a batting cage and a go-kart track on Raglan Road. It's called U Putt and Bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to work there, and I got $5.25 an hour. That was minimum wage. Okay, now it's $8.75. So things are rising. Okay, the least amount of money an hourly worker can be paid. All right, so I am not an hourly worker. I don't get paid by the hour. I get a salary. An hourly worker is a wage earner, all right? So like when I was athletic director, I did the math on how much I made 18 cents an hour.
Yeah.
That's how much money I made because I was not a wage earner. I was on salary and it didn't pay very well. So I made 18 cents an hour. That does not apply to this. It only applies to like people that earn an hourly wage. Does that make a difference? Salary is not included in this. Salary is different than a wage earner. All right? So let's look at how the Democrats feel. What do you think Democrats feel about minimum wage?
Raise it.
Tend to favor an increase because Democrats usually favor working class citizens. Okay. All right, let's say that what's a job that where you make minimum wage?
Wendy's.
You work at Wendy's.
Oh yeah.
Okay? Let's say I'm me. I'm a single dad. And I work at Wendy's. That's my job. Nothing wrong with working at Wendy's. At least I'm working. Okay? And so I make $8.75 an hour. $8.75. So let's say that if it's $8.75, the United States government or the state of West Virginia passes an increase, and so now I'm getting paid, I don't know, what do you think is a good increase? $12 an hour. That's pretty steep. Let's go $10. Got a $10. So now I got a $10 an hour increase. $1.25 an hour. $1.25 an hour, right? Is that a lot of money? $1.25 an hour. Okay? All right. So if I work 8 hours a day, $1.25 an hour times 8 hours a day, that's $10 extra a day. All right? Okay. I work 5 days a week. 10 hours a day times 5 days a week. It's $50 a week.
$100 a paycheck.
I work all year long, $50 a week, 52 weeks a year. That is an increase to my salary of $2,600 a year.
Whoa.
For just $1.25. Could I get a repair made to my car for $2,600? Yeah. Can I get some new tires?
Buy a lot of lottery tickets.
Buy
Oh my gosh.
scratchers and Marlboros? Yeah.
Car.
Buy all kind of stuff that I need. If I'm on minimum wage, I'm not going on vacation. I'm not doing stuff. I'm not being frivolous. I might be paying my babysitter so I can go to work. Or things like that. Buying groceries. So $2,600 medical bills. I don't have health insurance. I work at Wendy's. So $2,600 a year for just a measly $1.25 an hour raise would go a long way to help me. Okay? Republicans. Do not favor increasing it because it is harmful to business. Republicans tend to support business over workers. Okay? So let's do the math on this. Let's say that I'm me, and I own a mechanic shop. I own an auto mechanic shop. And I employ 10 mechanics. And I pay all of them minimum wage. Okay? All of my, I have 10 employees. Is that a real big business? No. Okay? I have 10 employees. So all of a sudden, my 10 employees go from making $8.75 an hour to $10 an hour. Okay, so that $2,600 a year that my mechanics are making,
You're losing.
yeah, I have 10 mechanics.
So you're moving 26.
I'm going to lose $26,000 lost a year. Now, I'm a businessman. I own a business. And I'm not accustomed to taking a $26,000 loss. What might I do to recuperate that?
How to work.
I'm going to fire one of my workers. What else?
You could raise your,
I'm going to raise prices.
it will cause inflation.
So the person at Wendy's that wants to come get their car fixed, it's going to cost them more. Check with the one that you agree with the most.
Well, but another problem I've seen is like salary workers. As the minimum wage goes up, salary workers' wage doesn't go up, the price of everything else does go up. So salary workers really suffer.
The key here, guys, with this one, the Democrats favor working class people, Republicans favor businesses.
But also you have to think, people
Okay.
are minimum wage now, that's not a rate of living.
Yeah, but
People-
whenever it goes
people
up,
can't
everything else is
survive
going to go
on
up where they can't live
Yeah.
anyway. It's going to be the exact same situation over and over.
I have mixed feelings.
It's all about it's all about your perspective. Is there a right or wrong?
No.
It's your perspective. Both Democrats and Republicans, it's not like Democrats, it's not like one of them says, I hate people and I want to kick them in the dirt and I hope, no. They both want America to do well. They both want America to be successful and all Americans to be happy. They just have different ways of going about it. That's all it is. Okay? All right, so have a nice day. I'll see you tomorrow. That's it. Time flies when you're having fun. If you have questions, don't hesitate to hit me up on Schoology.